Michael Singer. My dear friend David told me about Michael Singer. I listened to a few of his videos. I like what I heard. I sent David an email. This is what he sent me. Yes, it's so practical and very relative to just day-to-day living. I really liked his explanation of trapped energy or samskaras. It's so nice to know that we can just be human, able to handle all experiences, and then any discordant energy, we can recognize it and release it. And that's what's called purifying the mind. Ramakrishna said that purifying the mind is our purpose, and our purified mind is the same as the self. Yoga Journal. What is the surrender experiment? The surrender experiment is a challenge I gave myself to try to allow life to unfold around me without struggling with it. We are all intelligent enough to realize that we are not in control of 99.9% of what's going on around us. Our hearts beat, our food digests, and our cells divide, all without any intervention of our own. Likewise, the planets stay in orbit, and the entire rest of the universe unfolds on its own. We are not controlling any of this, yet it has been unfolding in perfect harmony for billions of years. If the forces of creation can create and maintain the entire universe, every moment are not the moments unfolding in front of me part of the same universal perfection? When I was in my early 20s, I took one look at this and realized that all the moments of creation are part of the same interrelated perfection. They have nothing to do with me, they belong to the forces that created them. All this is happening each moment is that I am seeing the result of 13.8 billion years of forces that interacted together to create exactly what is in front of me. That being the case, I decided to experiment with surrendering to that perfection instead of listening to what my preference driven mind has to say about it. Specifically, when something appears in front of me, I try to honor and respect the enormity of its origins rather than immediately judging whether I like it or not. That is the surrender experiment. And my new book is about what ended up happening as I aligned myself with life instead of struggling to align life to me. How did your practice help you stay centered and peacefully during your amazing rise to success as founding CEO of a $1 billion public company, and also during your indictment on federal fraud conspiracy charges, which were later dropped? Singer. Though I have consistently maintained daily practices, my true practice of yoga is done inside at all times. It is this internal practice of consistently letting go whatever disturbances arises within that has allowed me to stay centered through these amazing situations life has presented to me. Yoga is like a fine wine that becomes better over time. You start by letting go of the little things that irritate you for no reason, like the weather or someone else's attitude. Of what purpose is it to get disturbed by things that are just passing by and pretty much out of your control? So you begin the practice of allowing the shifts in your inner energy to just pass through internally. You do this by deeply relaxing and giving them the space they need to pass. It is very much like relaxing into a sauna. The more you relax, the easier it becomes until at some point it becomes an enjoyable experience. It can be the same inside. if you begin relaxing and releasing early enough in the process. Then something bigger happens in life that challenges your willingness to relax and let the reactionary disturbances pass by within. Your tendency is to resist the uncomfortable feeling and control your environment so they don't have to deal with the inner disturbances. But your commitment to yoga demands that you let go and use each situation life puts you in to go beyond your comfort zone. This is the true practice of yoga, and it becomes your way of life. But what will happen to my outer life if I commit myself to letting go within? That is the subject matter of the surrender experiment. What happens is phenomenal. You begin to see a perfection between what you need to let go of inside and what unfolds outside. You are presented each moment with a perfect situation to bring up the issues you have stored within, which in yoga we call samskaras, and you are then given the opportunity to let them go. If you do this each time, you will achieve the goal of yoga, a liberated energy flow that constantly bathes you with love and bliss as it rises within. So becoming CEO of a public company and being wrongfully charged by the federal government are both the same. There are amazing opportunities to let go of yourself at a very deep level and learn to surrender to the phenomenal perfection of life devoted to yoga. If you want to be happy, you have to let go of the part of you that wants to create melodrama. This is the part that thinks there's a reason not to be happy. You have to transcend the personal. As you do, you will naturally awaken to a higher aspect of your being. In the end, enjoying life's experiences is the only rational thing to do. You're sitting on a planet spinning around in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Go ahead, take a look at reality. You're floating in empty space in a universe that goes on forever. You have to be here. At least be happy and enjoy that experience. You're going to die anyway. Things are going to happen anyway. Why shouldn't you be happy? You gain nothing by being bothered by life's events. It doesn't change the world. You just suffer. There's always going to be something that can bother you if you let it. Michael Singer, Buyer. Michael Allen Singer, born 6th of May 1947, is an American author, journalist, motivational speaker, and former software developer. Two of his books, The Untethered Soul and The Surrender Experiment, were New York Times bestsellers. Singer graduated from the University of Florida in 1971 with a master's degree in economics. And while attending university, Singer had a spiritual awakening and went into seclusion to focus on meditation and yoga. This experience inspired him to establish the Temple of the Universe in 1975, a meditation center open to men and women of all beliefs and religions who seek inner peace. Singer is also involved in the medical software industry. He helped form the Medical Management Corporation, which marketed software that helped medical practitioners to digitize their medical records in 2000. Medical Manager was recognized by the Smithsonian Institute for its achievements in information technology. Later that year, Medical Manager became a subsidiary of WebMD, an acquisition valued at roughly $5 billion. Singer continued his work in physical software strategies at WebMD, where he remained as Executive VP, Physical Software Strategies, and Head of Research and Development, and Chief Software Architect at WebMD Practice Services. He resigned from WebMD in 2005 and focused on writing. The essence of spirituality is about letting go of the stuff inside, because when you let it all go, what's left is pure spirit. There's nothing more important to true growth than realizing that you are not the voice of the mind. You are the one who hears it. Only you can take inner freedom away from yourself or give it to yourself. Nobody else can. If you truly love someone, your love sees past their humanness. If you want to be happy, you have to let go of the part of you that wants to create melodrama. This is the part that thinks there is a reason not to be happy. You have to transcend the personal, and as you do, you will naturally awaken to the higher aspects of your being. In the end, enjoying life's experience is the only rational thing to do. You're sitting on a planet, spinning around in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Go ahead, take a look at reality. You're floating in empty space in a universe that goes on forever. If you have to be here, at least be happy and enjoy that experience. You're going to die anyway. Things are going to happen anyway. Why shouldn't you be happy? You gain nothing by being bothered by life's events. It doesn't change the world. You just suffer. There's always going to be something that can bother you if you let it. When a problem is disturbing you, don't ask, what should I do about it? Ask, what part of me is being disturbed by this? Do not let anything that happens in life be important enough that you're willing to close your heart over it. Eventually, you will see that the real cause of problems is not life itself. It's the commotion the mind makes about life that really causes the problems. We are constantly trying to hold it all together. If you really want to see why you do things, then don't do them and see what happens. The truth is, most of life will unfold in accordance with forces far outside your control, regardless of what your mind says about it. There's no reason to constantly attempt to figure everything out. Imagine if you use relationships to get to know other people rather than to satisfy what is blocked inside of you. If you're not trying to make people fit into your preconceived notions of what you like and dislike, you will find that relationships are not really that difficult. If you're not so busy judging and resisting people based upon what is blocked inside of you, you will find that they are much easier to get along with. And so are you. Letting go of yourself is the simplest way to get closer to others. Your relationship with God is the same as your relationship with the sun. If you hide for the sun for years and then choose to come out of your darkness, the sun will still be shining as if you had never left. You don't need to apologize. You just pick your head up and look at the sun. It's the same way. When you decide to turn towards God, You just do it. Instead of being encouraged to feel completely protected, loved, honored, and respected by the divine force, you've been taught that you're being judged because you've been taught that you feel guilt and fear. But guilt and fear do not open your connection to the divine. They only serve to close your heart. The reality is that God's way is love, and you can see this for yourself. True personal growth is about transcending the part of you that is not okay and needs protection. How would you feel if someone outside really started talking to you the way your inner voice does? How would you relate to the person who opened their mouth to say something your mental voice says? After a very short period of time, you would tell them to leave and never come back. But when your inner friend continuously speaks up, you don't ever tell it to leave. No matter how much trouble it causes, you listen. To get some distance from this, you first need to get some perspective. Walk outside on a clear night and just look up into the sky. You are sitting on a planet spinning around in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Though you can only see a few thousand stars, there are hundreds of billions of stars in our Milky Way galaxy alone. In fact, it's estimated there are over 1 trillion stars in the spiral galaxy, and that galaxy would just look like one star to us if we could even see it. You're just standing on one little ball of dust and spinning around one of the stars. From that perspective, do you really care what people think about your clothes or your car? Do you really need to feel embarrassed if you forget someone's name? How can you let these meaningless things cause pain? If you want out, if you want a decent life, you had better not devote your life to avoiding psychological pain. You had better not spend your life worrying about whether people like you or whether your car impresses people. What kind of life is that? It is a life of pain. You may not think that you feel pain that often, but you really do. To spend your life avoiding pain means it's always right behind you. If experience is the best teacher, there's nothing that comes closer to the experience of life. Your inner growth is completely dependent on the realization that the only way to find peace and contentment is to stop thinking about yourself. The only permanent solution to your problem is to go inside and let go of the part of you that seems to have so many problems with reality. Once you do that, you'll be clear enough to deal with what's left. Billions of people are going, billions of things are going on in this world. You can think about it all you want, but life is still going to keep on happening. There's nothing more important to true growth than to realizing that you are not the voice of the mind. You are the one who hears it. To obtain true inner freedom, you must be able to objectively watch your problems instead of being lost in them. Once you made the commitment to free yourself for the sake of the scared person inside, you would notice that there is a clear decision point at which your growth takes place. When you feel pain, simply view it as energy. Just start seeing those inner experiences as energy passing through your heart and before the eyes of your consciousness. Then relax. Do the opposite of contracting and closing. Relax and release. Relax your heart until you're actually face to face with the exact place where it hurts. Stay open and receptive so you can be present right where the tension is. You must be willing to be present right at the place of the tightness and pain, and then relax and go even deeper This is very deep growth and transformation, but you will not want to do this. You will feel tremendous resistance to doing this, and that's what makes it so powerful. As you relax and feel the resistance, the heart will want to pull away, to close, to protect, and to defend itself. Keep relaxing. Relax your shoulders and relax your heart. Let go and give room for the pain to pass through you. It's just energy. Just see it as energy and let it go. The psychic is built upon avoiding this pain, and as a result, it has fear of pain as its foundation. This is what caused the psychic to be. To understand this, notice that if the feeling of rejection is a major problem for you, you will feel experiences that causes rejection. That fear will become part of your psyche. Even though the actual events causing rejection are infrequent, you will have to deal with the fear of rejection all the time. This is how we create a pain that is always there. If you're doing something to avoid pain, then pain is running your life. All your thoughts and feelings will be affected by your fears. You have to understand that is your attempt to get special experiences from life that makes you miss the actual experiences of life. The most important thing in life is your inner energy. If you're always tired and never enthused, then life is no fun. But if you're always inspired and filled with energy, then every moment of every day is an exciting experience. Learn to work with these things through meditation, through awareness, and with willful efforts. You can learn to keep your centers open. You can do this by just relaxing and releasing. You can do this by not buying into the concept that there's anything worth closing over. Remember, if you love life, nothing is worth closing over. It's actually a shocking realization when you first notice that your mind is constantly talking. You might even try to yell at it in a feeble attempt to shut it up, but then you realize that the voice yelling at the voice. The only thing you have to know is that opening allows energy in and closing blocks it out. Now you have to decide whether or not you want this energy. How high do you want to get? How much love do you want to feel? How much enthusiasm do you want to have for the things you do? If enjoying a full life means experiencing high energy, love, enthusiasm all the time, then don't ever close. It is truly a great cosmic paradise that one of the best teachers in all of life turns out to be death. No person or situation could ever teach you as much as death has to teach you. When someone could tell you that you are not your body, death shows you. When someone could remind you of the insignificance of the things that you cling to, death takes them all away in a second. While people can teach you that men and women and all races are equal, and there is no difference between the rich and the poor, death instantly makes all the same. What if you knew that the next person you see would be the last person you would ever see? You'd be right there, soaking it in, experiencing it. It wouldn't matter what they were saying. You're just enjoying hearing the words because it would be the last conversation you ever had. What if you brought that kind of awareness to every conversation? That's what happens when you're told that death is around the corner. You change. Life doesn't change.
Can you accept the notion that once you change your internal state, you don't need the external world to provide you with a reason to feel joy, gratitude, appreciation, or any other elevated emotion? A memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom. And you can teach your body emotionally what it would feel like to believe in this way, to be empowered, to be moved by your own greatness, to be invincible, to have courage, to be in. I'm taking this time to create my day, and I'm affecting the quantum field. Now, if it is, in fact, the observers watching me the whole time that I'm doing this, and there is a spiritual aspect to myself, then show me a sign today that you paid attention to any one of these things that I created, and bring them in a way that I won't expect. So I'm as surprised at my ability to be able to experience these things. And make it so I have no doubt that it comes from you. And so I live my life, in a sense, all day thinking about being a genius, or thinking about being the glory and the power of God, or thinking about being unconditional love. We should never wait for science to give us permission to do the uncommon. If we do, then we're turning science into another religion. To be empowered, to be free, to be unlimited, to be creative, to be genius, to be divine, that is who you are. Once you feel this way, memorize this feeling. Remember this feeling. This is who you really are. Meditation is also a means for you to move beyond your analytical mind so that you can access your subconscious mind. That's crucial, since the subconscious is where all your bad habits and behaviors that you want to change reside. If you want a new outcome, you will have to break the habit of being yourself and reinvent a new self. Your thoughts and feelings come from your past memories. If you think and feel a certain way, you began to create an attitude. An attitude is a cycle of short-term thoughts and feelings experienced over and over again. Attitudes are shortened states of being. If you string a series of attitudes together, you create a belief. Beliefs are more elongated states of being and tend to become subconscious. When you add beliefs together, you create a perception. Your perception have everything to do with the choices you make, the behaviors you exhibit, the relationships you choose, and the realities you create. Warning: when feelings become the means of thinking, or we cannot think greater than how we feel, we can never change. To change is to think greater than how we feel. To change is to act greater than the familiar feelings of the memorized self. Your thoughts are incredibly powerful. Choose yours wisely. Psychologists tell us that by the time that we're in our mid-30s, our identity or personality will be completely formed. This means that for those of us over 35, we have memorized a selected state of behaviors, attitudes, belief, emotional reactions, habit, skills, associated memories, conditional response, and perceptions that are now subconsciously programmed within us. These programs are running us because the body has become the mind. This means that we will think the same thoughts, feel the same feelings, react in identical ways, behave in the same manner, believe the same dogmas, and perceive reality the same ways. About 90% of who we are, or by midlife, is a series of subconscious programs that have become automatic. Driving a car, brushing our teeth, overeating when we're stressed, worrying about our future, judging our friends, complaining about our lives, blaming our parents, not believing in ourselves, and insisting on being chronically unhappy, just to name a few. To be happy with yourself in the present moment while maintaining a dream of your future is a grand recipe for manifestation. When you feel so whole that you no longer care whether it will happen, that's when amazing things materialize before your eyes. I've learned that being whole is the perfect state of creation. I'm seeing this time and time again in witnessing true healing in people all over the world. They feel so complete that they no longer want, no longer feel lack, and no longer try to do it themselves. They let go, and to their amazement, something greater than they responds, and they laugh at the simplicity of the process. Many change starts with the simple process of something outside of us altering something inside of us. If you begin the inward journey and start to change your inner world of thoughts and feelings, it should create an improved state of well-being. If you keep repeating the process in meditation, then in time, epigenetic changes should begin to alter your outer presentation, and you become your own placebo. The latest research supports the notion that we have a natural ability to change the brain and body by thought alone, so that it looks biologically like some future event has already happened. Because you can make thought more real than anything else, you can change who you are from brain cells to gene, given the right understanding. First, every day, I would put all my conscious attention on this intelligence within me and give it a plan, a template, a vision with very specific orders, and then I would surrender my healing to this greater mind that has unlimited power, allowing it to do the healing for me. And second, I wouldn't let any thought slip by my awareness that I didn't want to experience. Think of it this way: the input remains the same, so the output has to remain the same. How then can you ever create anything new? So if you want to change some aspect of our reality, we have to think, feel, and act in new ways. We have to be different in terms of our response to experience. We have to become someone else. We have to create a new state of mind. We need to observe a new outcome with that new mind. The quantum field responds not to what we want. It responds to who we are being. The only way we can change our lives is to change our energy, to change the electromagnetic field we are constantly broadcasting. In other words, to change our state of being, we have to change how we think and how we feel. Making genetic changes. We used to think that genes created disease and that we are at the mercy of our DNA. So if many people in someone's family died of heart disease, we assume that their chances of also developing heart disease would be pretty high. But now we know through the science of epigenetics that it's not the gene that creates disease, but the environment that programs our genes to create disease. And it's just not the external environment outside our body, cigarette smokes or pesticides, for example, but also the internal environment within our body, the environment outside our cells. What do I mean by the environment within our body? As I said previously, emotions are chemical feedback, the end products of experience we have in our external environment. So as we react to a situation in our external environment, that produces an emotion. The resulting internal chemistry can signal our cells to either turn off, upregulate, or producing an increased expansion of that gene, or to turn off, down-regulating, or producing a decreased expression of the gene. The gene itself doesn't physically change. The expression of the gene changes, and that expression is what matters most, because that what affects our health and our lives. Conscious thoughts, repeated often enough, becomes unconscious thinking. To sum up the meditation process, you have to break the habit of being yourself and reinvent a new self. Lose your mind and create a new one. Prune synaptic connections and nurture new ones. Unmemorize past emotions and recondition the body to a new mind and emotions, and let go of the past and create a new future. By itself, conscious positive thinking cannot overcome subconscious negative feelings. Meditation opens the door between the conscious and subconscious minds. We meditate to enter the operating system of the subconscious, where all those unwanted habits and behaviors reside, and change them into more productive modes to support us in our lives. The point is, true happiness has nothing to do with pleasure, because the reliance on feeling good from such intensity-stimulating things only move us further from real joy. We're addicted to our beliefs. We're addicted to the emotions of our past. We see our beliefs as truths, not ideas that we can change. If we have very strong beliefs about something, evidence to the contrary could be sitting right in front of us, but we may not see it because we perceive it as entirely differently. We're in fact condition ourselves to believe all sorts of things that aren't necessarily true. And many of these things are having a negative impact on our health and happiness. Certain cultural beliefs. You will learn that the true purpose of meditation is to get beyond the analytical mind and enter into the subconscious mind, so you can make real and permanent changes. If you get up from meditation as the same person who sat down, nothing has happened to you on any level. When you meditate and connect to something greater, you can create and then memorize such coherence between your thoughts and feelings that nothing in your outer reality, no thing, no person, no condition, at any place or time could move you from that level of energy. Now you are mastering your environment, your body, and time. Reason this: when you think from your past memories, you can only create past experiences, as all the knowns in your life cause your brain to think and feel in familiar ways, thus creating noble outcomes. You continually reaffirm your life as you know it. And since your brain is equal to your environment, then each morning your senses plug you into the same reality and initiate the same stream of consciousness. Consider creating several mind movies, one for health and wellness, for example, and for another for romance, relationships, and health. It is not the world that needs peace, it is people. When people in the world are at peace within, the world will be at peace. When you are introduced to the clarity inside of you, to the simplicity inside of you, to the beauty inside of you, the journey of life begins. We think a wise person is someone who solves problems. Truth is, a wise person is someone who avoids problems. Every moment in your life is unique. You will never have two alike. Never. This is the science of living. When you begin to appreciate every moment, to have a heart so open, an understanding so beautiful, and a yearning for appreciation so complete that when that moment comes, you see exactly what it is. You should love one another and behave lovingly, because when love comes, everything comes. You should speak to one another with love and humility. Love is the essence. The world doesn't want you to know, they want you to believe. But there is a big difference between believing and knowing. Should you believe in yourself, or should you know yourself? Take solace, take comfort. Your problems too will go away one day. They're temporary. The only thing that is permanent in nature is in your heart. Recognize that and be fulfilled. Fulfill the possibility that was declared the day you were born, the moment you took your first breath. Happiness is your own treasure because it lies within you. Peace is not a luxury. It's not an option. It is fundamental to the existence and well-being of a human being to have peace in their life. People think God is a man. People think God has got ears, nose, teeth, and he rises daily in the morning, brushes his teeth, and washes his mouth. And he is an old man, and he has a beard. All these things people think, but no, God is energy. God is pure and perfect energy. Who are we waiting for? We look up to the sky, waiting for the angel to come down and fix all our problems. You are the angel that can fix your problems. Every human being has to find their own peace. Peace is within you and me. When you and I can experience who we really are, what life is, and what we are doing here, that's the day peace will begin in this world. You find freedom inside, nowhere else. In the hearts of every being is that one space which is free, which is filled with peace, and which is full of love. Life is a tide. Float on it, go down with it, and go up with it, but be detached, then it is not difficult. This peace is not the absence of anything. Real peace is the presence of something beautiful. Both peace and the thirst for it have been in the heart of every human being in every century and in every civilization. There's something so beautiful inside you that if you knew it, you would fall in love with it. It is irresistible. You can truly experience that. Practice peace. Change your world. That peace is that which is within us. We must experience it. And if we are searching for peace outside, we will never find the peace within. Every moment has a momentous gift for you. I suggest you take a look at yourself. Not the concepts, not the ideas, not the goods, not the bads, but a timeless purity of existence, a witness to the beauty that is. There are people who are very greedy. There are people who don't care. But in my opinion, that is a minority. The majority of the people on the face of the earth want peace. And if this is true, then peace on earth is a very achievable objective. People say it's not going to happen. Well, let this time belong to those who believe it can happen, not to the ones who say it cannot. This life has been given to us as a gift, as such a precious gift. To really try to understand it, really try to recognize it. The greatest meditation. Through the media of this knowledge, we can tap into our inner source that are so beautiful. Peace is when the heart is no longer in duality, when the struggle within has been resolved. A voice has been calling out, "What are you looking for?" is within you. Your truth is within you. Your peace is within you. Awaken and rejoice. Awaken and be alive. Awaken to the possibility of being fulfilled. We are all individuals. I can't eat for you, and you can't eat for me. I can't sleep for you, and you can't sleep for me. We are absolutely all individuals. When our purpose is fulfilled, it feels beautiful. That is, to me, the feeling of fulfillment. The moment you change your perception is the moment you rewrite the chemistry of your body. Each of our cells is a living entity, And the main thing that influences them is our blood. If I open my eyes in the morning and my beautiful partner is in front of me, my perception causes a release of oxytocin, dopamine, growth hormones, all of which encourage the growth and health of my cells. But if I see a saber-toothed tiger, I'm going to release stress hormones, which change the cells to a protection mode. People need to realize that their thoughts are more primary than their genes, because the environment, which is influenced by our thoughts, control the genes. Just like a single cell, the character of our lives is determined not by our genes, but by our response to the environment signals that propel life. As soon as you start to tell yourself in your perception that you can't do something anymore, then your biological system will adjust to prove you right. You will not do what you think you can't do. Beliefs and thoughts alter cells in your body. People need to realize that their thoughts are more primary than their genes, because the environment, which is influenced by our thoughts, controls the genes. Life has everything in it, but you only see what your perception allows you to see. Most illness is just stress from not living in harmony. A miraculous healing awaits this planet once we accept our new responsibility to collectively tend the garden rather than fight over the turf. Your perspective is always limited by how much you know. Expand your knowledge and you will transform your mind. If the brain expects that treatment will work, it sends healing chemicals into the bloodstream, which facilitates that. That's why the placebo effect is so powerful for every type of healing, and the opposite is equally true and equally powerful. When the brain expects that our therapy will not work, it doesn't. It's called the Nocebo Effect. When two people become entangled, one person will conform to the energy of the other person. When one of them is a healer whose cells are vibrating at a higher level, the client's cells become entangled and their energy is lifted. That's why that old saying, "Physician, heal thyself," is so important, even though most don't understand it. If the physician's energy is going on to influence, or in scientific terms, entrain the patient, the doctor must be higher. The secret of life is belief, rather than genes. It is our beliefs that controls our life. Psych K is a set of simple, self-empowering techniques to change your beliefs and perception that impact your life at a cellular level. You may consider yourself an individual, but as a cell biologist, I can tell you that you are in truth a cooperative community of approximately 50 trillion single-celled citizens. It is far easier to be entertained by a reality TV than to participate in your own reality. When we truly recognize that our beliefs are that powerful, we hold the key to freedom. We are conscious co-creators in the evolution of life. We have free will, and we have choices. Consequently, our success is based on our choices, which are, in turn, totally dependent on our awareness. I am the master of my genes, not the victim of them. Nature is based on harmony, so it says, you want to survive and become more like nature, then you actually have to understand that it's cooperation versus competition. The fact that science led me to spiritual insight is appropriate because the latest discoveries in physics and cell research are forging new links between the worlds of science and spirit. These realms were split apart in the days of Descartes centuries ago. However, I truly believe that when spirit and science are reunited, we'll be afforded the means to a better world. We can control our lives by controlling our perceptions. Recently, results of the Human Genome Project has shattered one of science's fundamental core beliefs, the concept of genetic determination. We have been led to believe that our genes determine the character of our lives, yet new research surprisingly reveals that it is the character of our lives that controls our genes. Rather than being victims of our heredity, we are actually masters of our genome. Every person perceives the world differently. So essentially, there are 6 billion human versions of reality on this planet, each perceiving its own truth. I learned again and again in my life, until you get your own act together, you're not ready for big love. When you're ready for is one of those codependent relationships where you desperately need a partner. We are today beginning to see work by very reputable scientists that says the universe is created by our observations. It is not a coincidence we are actively involved in physically shaping the world that we experience. We are never more than a belief away from our greatest love, deepest healing, and most profound miracles. You can manifest the life you truly want with clear intention, emotional intelligence, and imagination. Like it or not, your life is what you have chosen. When we form heart-centered beliefs within our bodies, in the language of physics, we are creating the electrical and magnetic expression of them as waves of energy, which aren't confined to our hearts or limited by the physical barrier of our skin and bones. So clearly, we're speaking to the world around us in each moment of every day through a language that has no words, the belief waves of our hearts. The world around us is nothing more and nothing less than a mirror of what we have become from within. To create reality, focus beyond the outcome as it already happened. There can be only one solution to any problem, a change in attitude and in consciousness. The secret of our last mode of prayer is to shift our perspective of life by feeling that the miracle has already happened and our prayers have been answered. Now we have the opportunity to bring this wisdom into our lives as prayers of gratitude for what already exists, rather than asking for our prayers to be answered. The new shift in thinking is the gateway to human transformation, and because of the sheer number of people involved in this shift, and the growing magnitude of the crises that are driving us to change the way we think, we are standing on the threshold of human transformation at a level unlike anything ever before known on Earth. Quantum science suggests the existence of many possible futures for each moment of our lives. Each future lies in a state of rest until it is awakened by choices made in the present. The prime rule of reality is that we must become in our lives what we choose to experience in this world. When you go into the world today, before you leave your home, promise yourself that you'll find at least one miracle, without any limits or bounds on what you think it should look like. Simply state for yourself your clear intention that of the many miracles that cross your path, you'll recognize one of them. When a certain number of people come together, and they choose at a moment in time to create a precise emotion in their hearts, that emotion literally can intentionally influence the very field that sustains the life on planet Earth. Just the way sound creates visible waves as it travels through a droplet of water, our belief waves ripple through the quantum fabric of the universe to become our bodies, and the healing, abundance, and peace or disease, lack, and suffering that we experience in life. And just the way we can tune a sound to change its patterns, we can tune our beliefs to preserve or destroy all that we cherish, including life itself. We live in a world where everything is connected. We cannot longer think in terms of us and them when it comes to the consequences of the way we live. Today, it's all about we. Perhaps one of the most powerful keys to determining our experience of the months ahead comes from a shift in thinking that invites us beyond asking, what can I get from the world that exists, to ask, what can I offer to the world that is awakening? The way we answer this question as individual becomes our collective answer to what comes next. Feeling is the language that speaks to the divine matrix, the universe. Feel as though your goal is accomplished and your prayer is already answered. Every time one person chooses a new way to respond to the challenges of life, each time an individual chooses a new option, that person then becomes a living bridge for all the others who choose to follow in that person's path. Here's your protection for whatever comes. Find something to be happy about every day, and every hour if possible, moment to moment, even if for only a few minutes. Beliefs and the feelings that we have about them are the language that speaks to the quantum stuff that makes our reality. Every second we choose to nourish ourselves in a way that supports or depletes our lives, and to think and speak about another person in a way that is honoring or dishonoring What choice are you going to make today? All it takes is one person in any generation to heal a family's limiting beliefs. The great challenge of life appears to us when, and only when, we have everything we need to survive and heal from the experience. The key to our transformation is simply this: the better we know ourselves, the better equipped we'll be able to make our choices wisely. The power of our beliefs can work in either direction to become life-affirming or life-denying. The instant of our first breath, we are infused with the single greatest force in the universe, the power to translate the possibilities of our minds into the reality of our world. All great changes are preceded by chaos. In the midst of movement and chaos, keep stillness inside of you. No matter what the situation, remind yourself, I have a choice. Be happy for no reason, like a child. If you are happy for a reason, you're in trouble, because that reason can be taken from you. There is a light within each of us that can never be distinguished or extinguished. It can only be obscured by forgetting who we are. Beyond the mind, at the deepest level of consciousness, resides the spirit. This is the part of us that is eternal, unchanging, and imbued with pure, unlimited potential. Tapping into this potential is what enables us to manifest miracles. Each time you are tempted to react in the same old way, ask if you want to be a prisoner of the past or a pioneer of the future. If you want to be happy, make someone else happy. If you want to find the right person in your life, be the right person. If you want to see change in the world, become the change you want to see. You must find the place inside yourself where nothing is impossible. You alone are the judge of your worth, and your goal is to discover infinite worth in yourself, no matter what anyone else thinks. The best use of imagination is creativity. The worst use of imagination is anxiety. One thing we can do is make the choice to view the world in a healthier way. We can choose to see the world as safe with only moments of danger, rather than seeing the world as dangerous with only moments of safety. According to Vedanta, there are two symptoms of enlightenment, just two indicators that a transformation is taking place within you towards a higher consciousness. The first symptom is you stop worrying. Things don't bother you anymore. You become lighthearted and full of joy. The second symptom is that you encounter more and more meaningful coincidences in your life, more and more synchronicities. And this accelerates to the point where you actually experience the miraculous. In my life, nothing goes wrong. When things seem to not meet my expectations, I let go of how I think things should be. It's a matter of not having any attachment to any fixed outcome. If you have your full attention in the moment, you will see only love. The true spiritual secret is this: what you seek, you already are. True success is discovering your inner divinity. It's the ability to love and to have compassion. Trust your intuition and awaken to your unlimited creative nature. The ego, however, is not who you really are. The ego is your self-image. It is your social mask. It is the role you are playing. Your social mask thrives on approval. It wants control, and is sustained by power because it lives in fear. Take responsibility for your last bad decision, and then let it go. Don't blame others or make excuses for yourself. Whatever relationships you have attached in your life at this moment are precisely the ones you need in your life at this moment. There is a hidden meaning behind all events, and this hidden meaning is serving your own evolution. If you focus on success, you'll have stress. But if you pursue excellence, success will be guaranteed. Change your story, change your life. Basically, that's what it is. You are the most important part of the family. Take care of yourself first. Then you'll be able to take care of everyone else even better. Meditation is not a way of making your mind quiet. It's a way of entering into the quiet that is already there, buried underneath the 50,000 thoughts the average person thinks every day. You are the luminous mystery in which the entire universe with its forms and phenomena rise and subsides. When this realization dawns, there is a complete transformation of your personal self into your universal self, the complete loss of all fear, including death. You have become a being who radiates love the same way the sun radiates light. You have finally arrived at the place from which your journey began. To make the right choices in life, you have to get in touch with your soul. To do this, you need to experience solitude, which most people are afraid of, because in the silence, you hear the truth and know the solutions. In string theory, all particles are vibration on a tiny rubber band. Physics is the harmonies on the string. Chemistry is the melodies we play on vibrating strings. The universe is a symphony of strings, and the mind of God is cosmic music resonating in 11-dimensional hyperspace. The most complex object in the known universe, brain, only uses 20 watts of power. It would require a nuclear power plant to energize a computer the size of a city blocks to mimic your brain, and your brain does it with just 20 watts. So when someone calls you a dim bulb, that's a compliment. All kids are born geniuses, but are crushed by society. What is the universe? The universe is the symphony of vibrating strings. We're nothing but melodies. We're nothing but cosmic music played out on vibrating strings and membranes. The human brain has 100 billion neurons. Each neuron connects to 10,000 other neurons. Sitting on your shoulder is the most complicated object in the known universe. Impossible is relative. In the beginning, God said, the four-dimensional divergence of an anti-symmetric second-rank tensor equals 0, and there was light, and it was good. And on the seventh day, he rested. It's pointless to have a nice, clean desk, because it means you're not doing anything. Srivasa Ramanujan was the strangest man in all of mathematics, probably in the entire history of science. He has been compared to a bursting supernova, illuminating the darkest, most profound corners of mathematics, before being tragically struck down by tuberculosis at the age of 33. Like Ryan before him, working in total isolation from the main currents of his field, he is able to redrive 100 years worth of Western mathematics on his own. The tragedy of his life that much of his work was wasted rediscovering known mathematics. Beyond work and love, I would add two other ingredients that give meaning to life. First, to fulfill whatever talents we are born with. However blessed we are by fate with different abilities and traits, we should try to develop them to the fullest rather than allow them to atrophy and decay. Second, we should try to leave the world a better place than we entered it. Music is the voice of God traveling through 10-dimensional hyperspace. I began to realize something. To understand the future, you have to understand physics. Physics of the last century gave us television, radio, microwaves, gave us the internet, lasers, transistors, computers, all that from physics. You know, when I look at the night sky and I see this enormous splendor of stars and galaxies, I sometimes ask the question, well, how many worlds are we talking about? Well, do the math. There are about 100 billion galaxies that are in the visible universe, and each galaxy in turn contains about 100 billion stars. You multiply and you get about 10 billion trillion stars. Well, I think it is the height of arrogance to believe that we are alone in the universe. My attitude is that the universe is teeming with different kinds of life forms. If you could meet your grandkids as elderly systems in the year 2100, you would view them as being basically Greek gods. That's where we're headed. Wormholes were first introduced to the public over a century ago in a book written by an Oxford mathematician. Perhaps realizing that adults might frown on the idea of multiply connected spaces, he wrote the book under a pseudonym and wrote it for children. His name was Charles Dodson. His pseudonym was Lewis Carroll, and the book was Through the Looking Glass. Math is discovered. To be invented requires an inventor, but math exists outside of humanity. But ultimately, the laws of the universe will be reduced down to a single equation, perhaps no more than 1 inch long. But leave the final question, where did that 1 inch equation come from? We have the media, which is such a waste in the sense that you can actually feel your IQ get lower as you watch TV. Some advice: keep the flames of curiosity and wonderment alive, even when studying for boring exams. This is the well from which we scientists draw our nourishment and energy, and also learn the math. Math is a language of nature, so we have to learn this language. Why do oil company executives, vampires, and NASA bureaucrats all have in common? They fear solar energy. Common sense has no place in quantum mechanics. Did God have a mother? Children, when told that God made the heavens and the earth, innocently asked whether God had a mother. This deceptively simple question has stumped the elders of the church and embarrassed the finest theologians, participating in some of the thorniest theological debates over the centuries. All the great religions have elaborated mythologies surrounding the divine act of creation, but none of them adequately confronts the logical paradoxes inherent in the question that even children ask. Physicists are made of atoms. A physicist is an attempt by an atom to understand itself. I believe we exist in a multiverse of universes. The law of physics, carefully constructed after thousands of experimentation, are nothing but the laws of harmony one can write down for strings and membranes. The law of chemistry are the melodies that one can play on these strings. The universe is a symphony of strings, and the mind of God, which Einstein wrote eloquently about, is cosmic music resonating throughout hyperspace. We are slowed down sound and light waves, a walking bundle of frequencies turned into the cosmos. We are souls dressed up in sacred biochemical garments, and our bodies are the instruments to which our souls play their music. The difference between stupidity and genius is that genius has its limits. Weak people revenge. Strong people forgive. Intelligent people ignore. The only thing more dangerous than ignorance is arrogance. The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Knowledge and ego are directly related. The less knowledge, the greater the ego. The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. Don't listen to the person who has the answers. Listen to the person who has the questions. There is no vaccine against stupidity. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. Everything that exists in your life does so because of two things: something you did or something you didn't do. Success comes from curiosity, concentration, perseverance, and self-criticism. Learn from yesterday. Live from today. Hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Do you believe in miracles? Well, you should. In fact, life itself is a big miracle. There are so many things that are beyond our understanding. There are two ways to live. You can live as if nothing is a miracle. You can live as if everything is a miracle. The main task of the Spirit is to free man from his ego. Three great forces rule the world: stupidity, fear, and greed. Everything you can imagine, nature has already created. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Only two things are infinite: the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not sure about the former. Adversary introduces a man to himself. Don't wait for miracles. Your whole life is a miracle. Genius is 1% talent and 99% hard work. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination is the language of the soul. Pay attention to your imagination, and you will discover all you need to be fulfilled. Alpha waves in the human brain are between 6 and 8 Hz. The wave frequency of the human cavity resonates between 6 and 8 Hz. All biological systems operate in the same frequency range. The human brain's alpha waves functions in this range, and the electrical resonance of the Earth is between 6 and 8 Hz. Thus, our entire biological system, the brain and the Earth itself, works on the same frequencies. If we can't control the resonant system electronically, we can directly control the entire mental system of humankind. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Antisocial behavior is the trait of intelligence in a world full of conformists. I don't care that they stole my idea. I care that they don't have any of their own. The gift of mental power comes from God, divine being. And if we concentrate our mind on that truth, we become in tune with His great power. My mother had taught me to seek all truth in the Bible. Be alone, that is the secret of invention. Be alone, that is when ideas are born. Of all the frictional resistance, the one that most retards human movement is ignorance. My brain is only a receiver. In the universe, there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration. I have not penetrated into the secrets of this core, but I know that it exists. It will soon be possible to transmute wireless messages around the world so simply that any individual can carry and operate his own apparatus. A new idea must not be judged by its immediate results. Einstein's relativity work is the magnificent mathematical guard which fascinates, dazzles, and make people blind to the underlying errors. The theory is like a beggar clothed in purple, whom ignorant people takes for a king. Its experiments are brilliant men, but they are metaphysics rather than scientists. To know each other, we must reach beyond the sphere of our sense perceptions. If your hate could be turned into electricity, it would light up the whole world. Peace had come as a natural consequence of universal enlightenment. The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than all the previous centuries of its existence. You may live to see man-made horrors beyond your comprehension. I could only achieve success in my life through self-discipline, and I lied it until my wish and my will became one. The mind is sharper and keener in seclusion and uninterrupted solitude. Originality thrives in seclusion, free of outside influences beating upon us to cripple the creative mind. Be alone, that is the secret of invention. Be alone, that is when ideas are born. If you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have the key to the universe. My belief is firm in the law of compensation. The true rewards are ever in proportion to the labor and sacrifices made. Today, scientists have submitted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation, and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality. Science is but a perversion of itself, unless it has its ultimate goal, the betterment of humanity. Everyone should consider his body as a priceless gift from one whom he loves above all, a marvelous work of art, of indescribable beauty and mystery beyond human conception, and so delicate that a word, a breath, a look, nay, a thought may injure it. All truths are easy to understand once they're discovered. The point is to discover them. The laws of nature are written by the hand of God in the language of mathematics. You can't teach anybody anything, only make them realize the answers are already inside them. I have never met a man so ignorant that I could learn something from him. Knowing thyself, that is the greatest wisdom. In the science, the authority of thousands of opinions is not worth as much as one tiny spark of reason in an individual man. I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God who has endowed us with senses, reason, and intellect has intended us to forego their use. To understand the universe, you must understand the language in which it's written, the language of mathematics. To be human, we must be ready to pronounce that wise, ingenious, and modest statement. I do not know. The sun, with all those planets revolving around it and depending on it, can still ripen a bunch of grapes as if it had nothing else in the universe to do. Two truths cannot contradict one another. Nevertheless, it moves. There are those who reason well, but they are generally outnumbered by those who reason badly. Measure what can be measured, and make measurable what cannot be measured. The Bible shows the way to go to heaven, not the way the heavens go. Mathematics is the language for which God has written the universe. The greatest wisdom is to get to know thyself. And who can doubt that will lead to the worst disorders when minds created free by God are compelled to submit slavishly to an outside will? When are we told to deny our senses and subject them to the whim of others? When people devoid of whatever competence are made judge over experts and are granted authority to treat them as they please. These are the novelties which are apt to bring about the ruin of commonwealths and the subversion of the state. When the senses fail us, reason must step in. Science proceeds more by what it has learned to ignore than what it takes into account. Long experience has taught me this about the status of mankind with regard to matters requiring thought. The less people know and understand about them, the more positively they attempt to argue concerning them, while on the other hand, to know and understand a multitude of things renders men cautious in passing judgment upon anything new. The prohibition of science would be contrary to the Bible, which in hundreds of places teaches us how the greatness and the glory of God shine forth marvelously in all his works, and is to be read above all in the open books of the heavens. Surely God would have caused birds to fly with their bones made of solid gold, with their veins full of quicksilver, with their flesh heavier than lead, and with their wings exceedingly small. He did not, and that ought to show something. It is only in order to shield your ignorance that you put the Lord at every turn to the refuge of a miracle. In my studies of astronomy and philosophy, I hold this opinion about the universe, that the sun remains fixed in the center of the circle of heavenly bodies, without changing its place, and the earth, turning upon itself, moves around the sun. You cannot teach a person something he does not already know. You can only bring what he does know to his awareness.
Young Galileo, pointing his telescope towards the stars. What was in his young mind? He went against the concepts of his time. During this age, scientists in the church believed that the sun and the planets revolved around the earth. Galileo and some scientists before, such as Copernicus, believed the earth and the planets revolved around the sun. Galileo was the first scientist to use the telescope to prove his theory. Yet, why does man hold on so tightly to his ideas and beliefs? The Catholic Church and the Pope himself couldn't believe Galileo. They said he was a heretic. How dare you challenge this idea that the sun and the planets revolve around the earth? Who do you think you are? Imagine being tried by the Inquisition. They found him guilty and placed him under house arrest. Fortunately, they didn't kill him. Yet, he spent the rest of his life in house arrest. Today, Galileo is known as the father of the following: father of observatory astronomy, father of modern physics, father of the scientific method, father of science. All I can say is, wow. Imagine Galileo also studied and mastered the following: astronomy, physics, engineer, philosophy, mathematician. He was, in my eyes, a genius. He was way ahead of his time. Isn't it amazing we don't want man to challenge our way of thinking? Man at times loves living in the box. It's a comfort zone. You don't want to learn anything new or be challenged. If someone has something to say that is different, we get angry. How many innocent people got killed in the Inquisition? To be honest, I probably would have died back then from what I'm saying today. Just think, Christ died on the cross. Yet the Inquisition killed millions of people who believed in Christ in a different way. What do you think Christ would say? He would shake his head and probably have tears of compassion flowing from his eyes. Look, this adventure of life is all about discovering the mysteries of life. We should be grateful when we meet someone who has a different idea or concept of life. I was fortunate to be brought up in a household that accepted all ideas in life. Till today, I still love to hear life stories from people all around the world. Imagine, today we have telescopes scattered throughout the universe. We are looking for the mysteries of life.
He is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent that survive. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change, that lives within the means available and works cooperatively against common threats. The love for all living creatures is the most noble attribute of man. The world would not be inherited by the strongest. It will be inherited by those most able to change. Sympathy beyond the confines of man, that is, humanity to the lower animals, seems to be one of the latest moral acquisitions. It is not the biggest, the brightest, or the best that will survive, but those who adapt the quickest. A man who dares to waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life. Building a better mousetrap merely results in smarter mice. Nothing exists for itself alone, but only in relation to other forms of life. Everything in nature is the result of fixed laws. In the long history of humankind, and animal kind too, those who learn to collaborate and improve most efficiently have prevailed. The more one thinks, the more one feels the hopeless immensity of man's ignorance. Ignorance more frequently begets confidence that does knowledge. It is not the most intellectual of the species that survive. It is not the strongest that survives, but the species that survive is the one that is able best to adapt and adjust to the changing environment in which it finds itself. There's no fundamental difference between man and animals in their ability to feel pleasure and pain, happiness and misery. Intelligence is based on how efficient a species becomes at doing the things they need to survive. In the struggle for survival, the fittest wins out at the expense of their rivals because they succeed in adapting themselves best to their environment. I ought, or I ought not, constitute the whole of morality. I have called this principle, by which each slight variation, if useful, is preserved, by the term of natural selection. A mathematician is a blind man in a dark room looking for a black cat, which isn't there. Some call it evolution, and others call it God. An American monkey, after getting drunk on brandy, would never touch it again, and thus is much wiser than most men. Men, with all its noble qualities, with sympathy which fills for the most debased, with benevolence which extends not only to other men, but the humblest living creature, with his godlike intellect which has penetrated into the movements and constitution of the solar system, with all these exalted powers, man still bears in his body frame the indivisible stamp of his lowly origin. The highest possible stage in moral culture is when we recognize that we ought to control our thoughts. With savages, the weak in body or mind are soon eliminated. We civilized men, on the other hand, do our utmost to check the progress of elimination. We build asylums for the imbecile, the maimed, and the sick. Thus, the weak members of civilized societies propagate their kind. No one who is attending to the breeding of domestic animals would doubt that this must be highly injurious to the race of man. Hardly anyone is so ignorant as to allow his worst animal to breed. If the misery of the poor be caused not by the laws of nature, but by your institutions, great is our sin. So remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see and hold on to that childlike wonder about what makes the universe exist. The thing about smart people is they seem like crazy people to dumb people. Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. Quiet people have the loudest minds. It is all right to make mistakes. Nothing is perfect, because with perfection we would not exist. It is my mind, my view, that the simplest explanation is there is no God. No one created the universe, and no one directs our fate. This leads me to a profound realization. There's probably no heaven, and no afterlife either. We have this one life to appreciate the grand design of the universe, and for that I am extremely grateful. 1. Remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. 2. Never give up work. Work gives you meaning and purpose, and life is empty without it. 3. If you're lucky enough to find love, remember it is there, and don't throw it away. However difficult life may seem, there's always something you can do and succeed at. I have noticed even people who claim everything is predestined and that we can do nothing to change it, look before they cross the road. I don't fear God. I fear His believers. It's very important for young people to keep their sense of wonder and keep asking why. The more you learn, the more you know. The more you know, the more you forget. The more you forget, the less you know. So why bother to learn? What I have learned from life is to make the most of what you got. So next time someone complains that you have made a mistake, tell him that may be a good thing, because without imperfection, neither you nor would I would exist. The human race is just a chemical scum on a moderate-sized planet, orbiting around a very average star in the outer suburb of one among 100 billion galaxies. We are so insignificant that I can't believe the whole universe exists for our benefit. That would be like saying that you would disappear if I close my eyes. Nothing is better than reading and gaining more and more knowledge. People won't have time for you if you are always angry or complaining. We are the only temporary custodians of the particles which we are made of. They will go on to lead a future existence in the enormous universe that made them. I am just a child who has never grown up. I still keep asking these how and why questions. Occasionally, I find an answer. A person who smiles in the face of adversity probably has a scapegoat. One can see from space how the human race has changed the earth. Nearly all of the available land has been cleared of forests, is now used for agriculture or urban development. The polar ice caps are shrinking and the desert areas are increasing. At night, the earth is no longer dark, but large areas are lit up. All of this evidence is that human exploration of the planet is reaching a critical limit. But human demands and expectations are ever increasing. We cannot continue to pollute the atmosphere, poison the ocean, and exhaust the land. There isn't any more available. The universe doesn't allow perfection. I'm not afraid of death. I'm in no hurry to die. I have so much I want to do first. Look up at the stars, not down at your feet. The fact that no one understands you doesn't mean you're an artist. Learning is the only thing the mind never exhausts, never fears, and never regrets. Life is pretty simple. You do some stuff, most fails, some works. You do more of what works. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Whatever you do in life, if you want to be creative and intelligent and develop your brain, you must do everything with awareness that everything, in some way, connects to everything else. There are three classes of people: those who see when they are shown, those who do not see. The greatest deception man suffered is from their own opinions. Be a mirror, absorb everything around you, and still remain the same. People reveal themselves completely only when they are thrown out of the customary conditions of their life. It's not enough that you believe what you see. You must also understand what you see. Experience is a truer guide than the words of others. I am not poor. Poor are those who desire many things. Nothing strengthens authority so much as silence. Nature is the source of all knowledge. She has her own logic, her own laws. She has no effect without cause, nor invention without necessity. Fix your course on a star, and you'll navigate any storm. You don't get into trouble because of the things you don't know. It is the things you don't know that really get you into a mess. As you cannot do what you want what you can do. All thoughts start from emotion. Average humans look without seeing, listen without hearing, touches without feeling, eats without tasting, moves without physical awareness, inhales without awareness of odor or fragrance, and talks without thinking. Life without love is no life at all. I've been impressed with the urgency of doing. Knowledge is not enough. We must apply. Being willing is not enough. We must do. The greatest geniuses sometimes accomplish more when they work less. I love those who can smile in trouble, who can gather strength from distress, and grow brave by reflection. 'Tis the business of little minds to shrink, but they whose heart is firm and whose consciousness approves their conduct will pursue their principles unto death. In rivers, the waters that you touch is the last of which has passed, and the first of that which comes, so with present time. Whoever in debate quotes authority, use not intellect, but memory.